Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Johnson has come out against the foreign aid bill that sends $100 billion overseas, and he has a Valentine's message for the White House and the Senate. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to UnwokeThoughts. Today, we are talking about the response from Mike Johnson on this foreign aid package that was passed by the Senate yesterday. Johnson said the Republican-led House will not be jammed or forced into passing a foreign aid bill that was opposed by most Republican senators and does nothing to secure the border. Now, listen to what he had to say, because he had some very loving remarks for the White House and the Senate on this Valentine's Day. Listen to this.
Last night, the House voted to approve articles of impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas. Desperate times call for desperate measures. We had to do that. He has abdicated his responsibility, he's breached the public trust, and he's disregarded the laws Congress has passed. But much more has to be done, of course, to secure the border. And what the Senate produced this week is silent on that issue. Senator McConnell and I have spoken about this in frank sessions, and let me be clear here again this morning. The Republican-led House will not be jammed or forced into passing a foreign aid bill that was opposed by most Republican senators and does nothing to secure our own border. It's time for Washington to start showing some love to Americans. On Valentine's Day, this is a good day to point this out. You need to listen to the American people and their needs and take action.
So it is a relief to see that so far, Mike Johnson is standing firm against these tyrants in the Senate and the White House, against this massive bill that does nothing to help the United States of America. You, the American people, you here at home, you know, you have a government that you elected to represent you. And they get into office, and all of a sudden they start thinking way broader than the United States. And that's okay, you know, generally that's okay. But what should be on their minds, first and foremost, is the United States in our country here. And if we have such pressing issues like the border that's wide open, and it's a disaster, it's a catastrophe right now, and they don't spend time actually hashing that out, trying to figure out what we're going to do down there on the border, coming to some sort of agreement on that, and instead they just completely booted out of any bill, and they focus solely on foreign countries. That's a problem. So I like how Mike Johnson phrased this when he said it's time to focus on the American people. It's time to show some love to the American people on this Valentine's Day. But these remarks by Mike Johnson came following President Biden's demand that he bring the foreign aid package to the floor. Listen.
By a margin of 70 to 29 to move forward the bipartisan national security bill. Now it moves to the House. And I urge Speaker Johnson to bring it to the floor immediately. There's no question that a Senate bill was put on the floor in the House of Representatives, it would pass. It would pass. And the Speaker knows that. So I call on the Speaker to let the full House speak its mind and not allow a minority of most extreme voices in the House to block this bill even from being voted on. This is a critical act for the House to move. It needs to move. The bill provides urgent funding for Ukraine so it can keep defending itself against Putin's vicious onslaught.
So guys, Biden is saying this is a critical bill, and we can't allow these extremists in the House of Representatives to block this bill, the most extreme of the extreme. Yeah, guys, that's what he thinks of people who don't support this bill. They are extremists, people that believe that America should be put first, that our government should represent America first before they represent Ukraine, before they represent Israel, Taiwan, and other countries. Yes, guys, you are the extremists. If you are a patriot, if you are against big government, if you are against massive hemorrhaging of the American dollars to foreign countries, you are an extremist. You are the extremist. He is gaslighting all of you. He is gaslighting all of the House of Representatives, and he is threatening them, and he's using this extreme language saying, you better bring this bill to the floor or else, even though this bill is completely and utterly un-American, and it does nothing to fix the border. It completely took that out of the bill. But instead, yes, guys, you're an extremist if you don't support this. But the Post-Millennial is reporting on this. They bring a little more context to the whole situation. They say, breaking, Mike Johnson shuts down Senate's foreign funding bill. It's time for Washington to start showing some love for Americans, he said. What a fantastic Valentine's Day message. I love that, Mike Johnson. But it says on Wednesday, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson shut down the $95 billion foreign aid package recently passed by the Senate. Johnson remains steadfast in his and most of his party's belief that no bill that doesn't include funding to solve the crisis at the southern border should be considered by the House. Yes, guys. So he shares your sentiment, at least for now. And we must keep making sure that our representatives know that by no uncertain terms should this bill go through. Now, I wouldn't be happy with this bill even if it had the border in it. But it would be more palatable, to say the least, if it actually took care of the border to some degree. But it doesn't. That's the problem. The Republican-led House will not be jammed. This is a quote from Mike Johnson that you heard earlier, or forced into passing a foreign aid bill that was opposed by most Republican senators and does nothing to secure our own border. He said it's time for Washington to start showing some love for Americans. On Valentine's Day, it's a good day to point this out, he continued. We need to listen to the American people and their needs. Wow, what a crazy idea. You're telling me that our government, our representatives, our senators, they should listen to the American people that they are sworn to represent? The ones who vote for them, that the ones that put them in office in the first place? You're telling me that that should take precedent over a foreign country? Wow, what a novel idea. Take action, and that's why House leadership will continue to govern with Americans' interests at heart. That is a fantastic statement. I hope he sticks to his guns. Guys, I can't emphasize this enough. It's important that you let your voice be heard to your representatives, because they are the last line of defense for this disastrous legislation that sells you down the road. Democrats have been trying to gin up support for a discharge petition, which would have allowed them to bypass Johnson and force a vote. However, progressives, wow, listen to this, including Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, said they would not sign on, citing the bill's funding for Israel. Wow, look at that. We have a little bit of bipartisan support against this bill. I'm digging it. And from AOC, wow, okay, AOC having a little backbone here. I'm digging this, okay? The foreign aid package, which dedicates funding to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, passed with 70 to 29 vote as 22 Republicans joined their Democratic colleagues to side in favor of the bill. Yes, guys, it wasn't 18 Republicans. I gave you guys a list yesterday with pictures and everything of 18 Republicans who sided with this bill. But it was, in fact, 22 Republicans. I got that list from a New York Times article. So it must not have been updated. So I'm sorry that I did not give you the complete list. It was even worse than we thought the whole time. Johnson made it clear, even before the votes had been tallied, that he had no intention of letting the bill enter his chamber. And this is the statement right here, guys, from Johnson. House Republicans were crystal clear from the very beginning of discussions that any so-called national security supplemental legislation must recognize that national security begins at our own border. The House acted 10 months ago to help enact transformative policy change by passing the Secure Our Border Act. And since then, including today, the Senate has failed to meet the moment. The Senate did the right thing last week by rejecting the Ukraine, Taiwan, Gaza, Israel immigration legislation due to its insufficient border provisions, and it should have gone back to the drawing board to amend the current bill to include real border security provisions that would actually help end the ongoing catastrophe. Instead, the Senate's foreign aid bill is silent on the most pressing issue facing our country. The mandate of national security supplemental legislation was to secure America's own border before sending additional foreign aid around the world. It is what American people demand and deserve. Now, in the absence of having received any single border policy change from the Senate, the House will have to continue to work its own will on these important matters. America deserves better than the Senate status quo. I could not agree more. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Speaker Johnson will hold fast in his promise to represent the American people and their interest? Do you think that there's going to be some funny business going on? I've had this little theory yesterday when Alejandro Mayorkas was impeached by the House. It's going to be kicked back to the Senate, and they are no doubt going to say, no, we're not going to kick him out. We're not going to actually impeach him. I had this little theory that they might use Mayorkas as a bargaining chip. Hey, do you want Mayorkas actually out of office? Do you want him actually impeached? Well, you have to pass our funding bill, our foreign aid funding bill. What do you think of that theory? Honestly, I want to know. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until then, I will see you on the next one.